Hi everyone. This presentation brings to you the general characteristic features of phylum Mollusca. Phylum Mollusca, they form the second largest phylum of invertebrates. Actually, the whole animal kingdom itself. You can see here the figure. It shows how diverse and how abundant are each of the phylum of the animal kingdom. So here you can see the major part is occupied by phylum Arthropoda. And second comes the mollusca. Actually, even it is more diverse and it's more abundant than chordates, the whole set of larger animals. When we speak about the general characteristic features of the mollusks, they are essentially aquatic, mostly marine, a few freshwater, and some terrestrial forms are also found. Mollusks are generally soft-bodied, bilaterally symmetrical organisms with unsegmented body. They are coelomate animals, eucoelomate animals, and usually most of the members, they are provided with a shell. Okay, they are usually shelled, and you can see when we speak about the symmetry, most of them are bilaterally symmetrical, but some of them may have lost this symmetry, especially the gastroporan groups. Okay. Now, hemocoel, when we speak about the coelom, it is eucoelom, it is schizocelic in nature, and they are hemocoel. What does it indicate? That is, it is the coelom, it is filled with the hemolymph. You can see here another important feature, it is the presence of the shell. You can see here, this is the typical mollusk figure, and here you can see the externally it is provided with a shell. Okay, it is a protective covering over here. Majority of the mollusks, they do have a calcareous shell. It could be external, even in some cases internal shells are also found. For example, over here, this is a bivalve that is having two parts in their shell. You can see here two parts. So such kind of shells are known as bivalves. In some cases you may find only a single part or single piece that forms a shell, and such shells are known as univalve. You can see it is a univalve, or it could be a bivalve. Okay, if a shell is present externally. Now this one, it is actually a reduced shell. Okay, it is found in the case of cuttlefishes, and that is actually internal shell. So in some cases we can see the shell is, it could be internal as well. For example, as in the case of squids or in the case of cuttlefishes, it may be highly reduced or it may even be absent altogether. Now when you so this is about the external and the internal shells. Okay, now when you look into the structure of shell, so you can see here a piece of a shell. It has enlarged to see the various layers that make up the shell. Okay, so this is the part of the shell. Fine. The shell, it is composed of 2 or 3 layers, and you can see it from the outermost layer. If you see, it is composed of periostracum. This is the periostracum. Then it is the inner layer is, or the middle layer, it is the ostracum or the prismatic layer, and the innermost layer is the nacreous layer. So if you look at this structure, the internal very smooth part, it is the nacreous layer, the innermost part, while the outermost part, it is actually the periostracum layer. Now when you speak about the chemical like components that make up the shell, you can see that there are 2 main components that form a major ingredient forming a shell. One is a protein, it is a conchiolin, and another, it is the calcium carbonate. Okay, conchiolin, it is actually an uncalcified and chitin-like proteinaceous component, and that provides the what you call the rigidity or the framework for the shell. Okay, calcium carbonate, it is it helps in the major part of the shell. It is calcium carbonate embedded within the framework of the conchiolin. Okay, that is calcium carbonate. It is deposited within a framework of the protein conchiolin. Okay, and this actually the calcium carbonate component of the shell, it actually is derived from the calcium bicarbonate in the external solutions. Okay, and the you can see that it actually protects the inner very soft body from carbonic acid and other agents that could actually damage the organism, right? So the outermost layer, as we have seen, it is periostracum, and periostracum, it is a very thin outer layer. It is formed of conchiolin mainly. Ostracum, it is the thick middle layer. You can see here it is thicker than the periostracum, and you can see here it is longitudinally arranged calcite plates. Okay, calcite in the sense calcium carbonate. So calcite plates, and this is formed of crystals of calcium carbonate, and the crystals, it is otherwise referred as prisms of calcium carbonate, and that is why the name has come, prismatic layer. Okay, and each of these plates, it is longitudinal plates, it is surrounded by a thin layer of conchiolin. Okay, the innermost layer, the hypostracum or the nacreous layer, or even it is otherwise known as nacre, it is the innermost layer. It is formed of horizontally arranged and alternately arranged plates. You can see here it is horizontally arranged. It is made up of, and these plates are made up of calcium carbonate and conchiolin. Okay, so this is about the structure of shell. So what does it mean? What does it actually, how it is formed? Just inner to the shell, you can see the mantle layer. Okay, the mantle layer, it is the one which actually secretes the shell. Right, you can see here the what you call the periostracum, ostracum and hypostracum. They are secreted by the mantle. Okay, the innermost layer, the hypostracum, it is produced by the epithelium of the what you call the mantle. Okay, so you can see here the mantle itself is formed of 3 longitudinal folds. You can see here the mantle folds over here, and the outer fold, it secretes the prisms of chalk. That is the I hope you remember the calcium carbonate layers. Okay, the middle part of the mantle, it is sensory in function, while the innermost fold, it influences water current passing through the mantle cavity. Okay, so it is mantle which is responsible for the secretion of the shell. So as already mentioned, the shell is calcareous in nature. That is, it is composed of calcium carbonate mainly, right? And in the case of mollusks, we can find it could be univalve or bivalve. That is univalve when there is only a single piece of shell, and bivalve when it is formed of 2 pieces. Okay, regarding its position, we can find majority of the mollusks do have an external shell, as in the case of snails and all, which you are familiar with, while it could be even internal, as in the case of the cuttlefishes or what you call squids, and in some cases it could be reduced or even absent. Okay, in the case of octopus and slug. Okay, slug you may have seen, that is snail like but without a shell, right? So in those organisms, in those mollusks, they don't have a shell at all. So we can have these kinds of variations among the different members of mollusks with respect to the shell. Now structure wise, if you see, the shell is formed of 3 layers: the periostracum, ostracum and hypostracum. Okay, and each of these layers, the major chemical component which forms the constituents, it is a calcium carbonate and the protein conchiolin. Okay, so this is about the molluscan shell. Moving on to the basic structure, as already mentioned, the members of mollusca, they have an unsegmented body. The body is not segmented. It is not like you cannot see the different segments. Okay, but the body is divisible into head, like visceral mass and mantle foot. Okay, so this together you can see head, foot and visceral mass. These are the major divisions body is divided into. Okay, here you can see this is the part head and foot region, and this is the part the visceral mass, which actually protects the viscera, the major organ systems inside. Okay, when you look into the head region, the head bears the mouth and important sense organs like paired eyes, tentacles, etc. Now visceral mass, it is located above the foot. You can see this part is the foot. Okay, this major part is the foot region, and the visceral mass, it is located above the foot in in most of the cases. Okay, and this visceral mass, it contains most of the internal organs, the viscera. Okay, and when you speak of the foot is usually ventrally located. They are thick and they are broad. They are mainly meant for locomotion, and the foot may be variously modified for various purposes. For example, if it is aquatic, it has to use the very flattened foot for swimming, floating. Okay, in some cases burrowing ones, they may have foot meant for burrowing and so creeping. So depending upon the habitat they live in, the foot may be modified for various purposes. Okay, now okay, so this is about the structure. You can see what all other structures are found inside the viscera. So as already mentioned, the visceral mass, they do have most of the organ systems, right? So here you can see the starting from the mouth, the digestive system, the alimentary canal, right? And you have the gills for respiration, right? Respiratory structure. In the case of the mollusks, as already mentioned, we can find terrestrial mollusks as well. So in terrestrial condition, they may not be able to survive with paired gills alone for respiration. So they do have lungs as well. Okay, so pulmonary respiration as well as the gill respiration can be found in the case of these mollusks. Okay, then we have the circulatory system. Okay, the heart and the various what you call vessels in that. Okay. Now we will look into the various other structures. So this is a typical what you call figure which shows all the parts, right? So here you can see the foot region, the head region here, okay, and the visceral mass. Okay, so this blue this shows the alimentary canal, the red shows the what you call the circulatory system, and this one is the respiratory structure, major respiratory structure, and the yellow one, it shows the excretory organ. Now coming to the coelom, when we see as already mentioned, the coelom, it is confined to various certain parts. Okay, it is not what you call even though it is hemocoel, it is not so well elaborated. It is restricted to certain parts, and you can see it is found around the this one pericardial cavity. It forms a smaller space around the excretory system and gonads. So it is highly restricted to certain parts alone, right? So this is another important structure which is found in the case of mollusks, that is a ctenidia. As already mentioned, mollusks, they are terrestrial as well as aquatic forms are found, and those which are living in aquatic, you can see gill respiration is required, and the gill respiration, it is otherwise the gills, they are otherwise referred as ctenidia. Okay, this is a very unique what you call structure which is found in the case of mollusks. Okay, the respiratory organs of mollusks, they could be ctenidia in aquatic forms and lungs in terrestrial forms. Usually we don't use the term lungs, we usually use the term pulmonary sac, but some you can see for example a typical mollusk, that is a pila, that is those snails which are found along the bunds of agriculture fields. You can see in them they have both ctenidia as well as the pulmonary sacs for respiratory purposes. So they may get completely what you call, when water rises up in the fields, they may be completely submerged in water. So in these situations they may have to switch on to completely gill respiration or ctenidial respiration. Okay, otherwise they can use pulmonary sac as well. Okay, now how the respiration is brought about with the help of ctenidia, we will be learning it in the what you call, when you studied respiratory system of Pila globosa, which is a type species which we are going to learn under phylum Mollusca. Now another unique character with respect to the mollusks alone, it is radula. Okay, it is a structure associated with the digestive system. Okay, we can see that almost all the mollusks except for bivalves, they do have radula, and you can see this is the structure, the radula, right? And the radula, it consists of you can see it is a ribbon of recurved chitinous teeth. You can see here it is curved backward, and almost like thousands of such kind of teeth may be present on the radular membrane. You can see here this one, right? So it is somewhat like a recurved teeth placed on a ribbon. Fine. And it is present on the oral cavity. This is mouth, isn't it? And so this is the buccal cavity region. Okay, so the buccal cavity contains these radular teeth. Okay, and this is typically the rasping organ, the organ meant for rasping the algae present on the rocks, etc. Okay, this consists of chitinous teeth which are stretched over a supporting belt. Okay, so you can see here these are chitinous teeth which is placed on the supporting belt, and these teeth are pointed backwards. The teeth, they are present in horizontal rows. You can see here these are the rasping teeth. It is placed in horizontal rows, and the shape of the radula, shape of the teeth, it varies with the diet the particular mollusk feeds upon, and even the position. According to the position, it may differ. Okay, now the chitinous teeth, it may get worn out and it get replaced continuously. Okay, and as already mentioned, it is usually used for as a rasping organ. It's a very important character of mollusks. Almost all the mollusks except for the bivalves, they do possess the radula as a part of their digestive system, alimentary canal. Okay. In cone snails, the cone snail, it is a venomous snail, and they have modified radula that is used to deliver neurotoxins onto the prey. And harpoon-like teeth are discharged from the end of the long proboscis in the case of cone snails. Right now, so this is, you can see here, this is a figure which shows the radula. This is a mouth opening. When you see it from the front, this is how it looks like. Okay, the radula is placed like this, right? This is a photograph which shows the octopus radula, the radula of octopus. You can see horizontal rows of the teeth placed. You can see here the shape, the size, the position, and the number. All these depends upon the food they take in. So it may be almost like species specific. Okay. Now the next character which we are going to speak is about the what you call the circulatory system. As already you can see here, it is open type of circulatory system. Except for the cephalopods, the circulatory system is of open type, where the blood flows through open channels. Hope you remember in the previous one, it was open circulatory system again, and there we found that the blood flows through open channels and open spaces, and it was never not completely confined into vessels, closed vessels, right? And here you can see the heart. It is single. It has a single ventricle, and apart from that, they do have different number of auricles. Okay, the heart, it is myogenic. That is, its muscles have the ability to trigger and maintain the heartbeat without any nervous control. Okay, and the blood flows with respect to the heartbeat. Okay, another important feature is, as already mentioned, it is a hemolymph, and this hemolymph contain the hemocyanin. Okay, hemocyanin is a copper containing pigment. Unlike the hemoglobin in the case of humans, hemocyanin, when undergo oxidation, it turns blue in color. Okay, so this is this is about the circulatory system. As already mentioned, it is open circulatory system with the chambered heart. We could see a single ventricle and different number of what you call auricles there. And we already mentioned that it is myogenic heart, and they do have the hemocoel. The hemolymph, it travels through sinuses and lacunae. It is never completely confined with vessels. Then it is hemocyanin, the respiratory pigment, right? So you can see another important feature in this particular figure. It is the sensory structures. Now, the sense organs in the case of mollusks, it includes tentacles. You can see here a pair of tentacles and a pair of stalked eyes, right? The tentacles, they are tactile organs, they are touch sensitive, and obviously eyes are meant for vision. Then there are two more structures which are found in the mollusk. That is, one is statocyst. As the name indicates, it is meant for it is a balancing organ, while another structure, Ostradia, the structure and function we'll be learning in detail in the coming presentations. Ostradia, they are chemoreceptors, that is, they are chemical receptors. Okay, they actually sense the chemicals present in the water entering the mantle cavity. So that is Ostradia. So there are four major sense organs that found in the case of these mollusks, that is the tentacles, eyes, Ostradia, and the statocyst. Okay, so this is about the general characteristic features of mollusks, and the detail of each of the organ systems we will be looking into in the coming presentation when we study the type species Pila globosa. Okay, thank you.